What I need you to do now is pull up the Intro to Compounding packet. So go back to Blackboard if you left out of there. So go to the Intro week. And let's pull up our first packet. So you should be on this packet right here. And similar format. And so if you look here, what's a little bit different about this packet is that there really isn't a dry lab and a wet lab. We're going to go through all of this together, both of them together up here. Judy is going to compound them for us. You are then going to go out and do both of these. So you are going to make and do everything we're going to do in here, but we want you to kind of see it first before you go out there for the first time. And so these prescriptions are not like real prescriptions. Understand my objective for today, going forward, is to get you some familiarity with the formats of the packets and the types of documentations and calculations that you're going to do. So some of the paperwork I want you to get used to. For what you're doing out in lab, it isn't rocket science, but you're going to, have to find your equipment. So do you even know where you're supposed to go out in lab? Well, go back and look in the sign-in sheet. There was your pod number and station number, so you do have an assigned seat. So when you leave here, part of it is just knowing where you're going to go out into lab. And I will remind you, when you go out into the compounding lab, you do need to put all of the stuff you don't need. You'll need your iPad, maybe something to write with. You need your lab coats on, but everything else, backpacks and winter coats, need to be stuffed in the big drawers by the sink. On the left and right of the sink, there are the big wide open drawers. Stuff your stuff there. I don't want them on the end cap. Don't want them hanging off the chair because people are walking around and you're going to be getting chemicals and supplies and stuff. So I want all your stuff there. And I see a lot of water bottles. That's fine to bring to lab, but when you go out to lab, stuff those in that drawers as well. We don't want them just exposed to the chemicals and stuff. So just realize that. Where are your supplies? Well, the top drawers going left and right have all of your equipment in it, all your glassware and stuff. Your scale should be sitting out already. If you're missing anything or can't find anything, you'll have to ask us. We want you to get used to where all of your equipment is going to be as well. Okay? And from a technical standpoint today, you're breaking out the glass, mortar, and pestle. Do you even know which one is which? You will here in a second. So we're going to do all of that. You're going to have to go get some chemicals off the supply tables because that's where we're always going to be putting the supply tables. You're going to have to discard some excess powder in the blue trash bins that we use for that. So we're just kind of getting you into the flow of what you're going to be doing. And then there is one very important set of calculations that I'm going to go through in a second about getting drug from tablets and capsules instead of bulk powder. Those calculations aren't necessarily hard, but you're going to be doing them all the time, and we want to make sure you don't mess them up. So we have some overall goals for what you're doing in lab today. So let's just go through this. First thing, let's read and interpret this, albeit somewhat fake prescription, because Richard Hansen has been prescribed a combination of the incredibly intelligently named drug A at 20 grams, and to that, we're going to want to combine 0.3 grams of drug B. Why are we having those? We want those obviously as dry powders, or we're going to have a final powder that they're going to apply topically, all right, as directed. So we would assume that's a reasonable thing to want to combine those two things with, all right? So 20 grams drug A, 0.3 grams drug B, mix them together and you're done. Boom, piece of cake, right? Well, on all of the prescriptions, all semester, once you read and interpret the script, it's very important to look under the additional information because there are some parameters that you're going to need to know there, whether or not to make excess, whether or not what the source of your active ingredients are, things like that. So for today, it says to use the digital balance, which we'll use all semester long. Do any of you work in pharmacies that still use the torsion balance with the pans that go back and forth? Oh man, they work well if you know how to do them. They're a pain in the butt. So tell them to get a new digital balance. They're cheap. Anyway, so you'll be using the electronic balances to make life easier. But even with electronic balances, there are minimum quantities. Can you just weigh 5 milligrams on a digital balance? On mine, they read it down to the milligram spot, but they're not going to be that accurate. Would you agree? So all of your equipment has minimal accuracy, so we will always remind you of what the least weighable quantity is. Won't be a big deal until we get to capsules, but there are times where you need to make sure you're weighing at least the minimum amount your scale can accurately weigh. Now, here's what's important. For this prescription, drug A is a USP bulk powder. So that is, USP does say that it's a certain level of quality and purity. Bulk powder, easy breezy. So if I need 20 grams of drug A, what am I going to weigh? 20 grams of drug A. It's a bulk powder. It's 100% powder. The trick to this is the fact that your drug B is actually a 900 milligram commercial tablet. And here's what you need to know, big part today. When you see a tablet in a capsule, and it's a atorvastatin 40 milligrams, does that mean that tablet weighs 40 milligrams and it is pure atorvastatin? No, you hopefully realize both tablets and capsules have binders and fillers and other things in them to make the product the size and shape that it is. It is not pure drug. So we can't treat this 900 milligram tablet like it's a bulk powder. So we're going to have to do some calculations to know how to get the right amount of drug out of this tablet in our formulation. That's kind of the trick, if you will. All right. Now, going down, go ahead and fill this out. You'll need to, and again, you're going to be doing this electronic documentation all semester. And again, for checkout today, and certainly as we go forward, you always bring your final product and, in this case, your iPad. And we are going to check that you have completed all this documentation. So you must demonstrate, and we will be looking today, even before you leave, flipping through your handout to make sure you have documented all of this. Okay, so the formulation record, I know with my fictitious thing, it's kind of weird here. This is a requirement. This is now a part of the master formulation record, is this that you talk about what are each of your ingredients, how much of it is in there, and what is its purpose, what is it for. So for write down drug A, and in this case we're going to say the amount is QS, which means it's really the diluent. Our main active agent here is drug B, but we're putting enough drug A in there that we can make a powder and dilute it and deliver it. So it's really the diluent part of the vehicle, whereas drug B is 1.5%, and it's an anti-whatever you want. It's the active ingredient, and obviously it's the active. Why did I choose to do 1.5% instead of 0.3 grams? Because I listened to the podcast on powders, which said that active ingredients in topical powders are expressed as a percent weight per weight. That's just kind of the way that you do it. So that's part of why the podcasts are important. So anyways, so no big deal there, but everyone get that documented. That is part of the formulation record. You would need to document what the purpose of each of the ingredients are in the formulation. Now we can start on the calculations. All right, so get out your calculator. You definitely need to bring a calculator every week to lab. The reason for that is that on exam weeks, your iPad is going to be locked down using ExamSoft. We will be doing ExamSoft for your quizzes and for your exams, so you're going to want to have access to a calculator. It can be a somewhat simple calculator, but it can be anything. I'm not going to check your calculator, but you do need to be able to do calculations regularly. And again, at some point as we progress through, you're going to want to be able to do it in something other than your iPad. So keep that in mind. You can use your iPad today, certainly. We're not locked out of anything today, but make sure you have a calculator, one that you're going to be good at using, because usually you guys are pretty smart. Do you know what most of the mistakes are for calculations? Just screw-ups, just math errors on the calculator. I know you haven't used a calculator a lot, so let's get back into that routine. So use one that you're good at. Today's calculations aren't particularly difficult. The other thing I'll let you know on this handout, the thing that you're doing today, is considered a learning week. So in the calculation section, have I kind of listed out exactly how to kind of go through the calculations? I will do that on learning weeks often. However, on the exam, it says calculations, and it's a big blank space. So realize I do not tell you how to do any calculations on the exam. I expect for you to remember how to formulate it from the learning weeks. Just like on the learning week today, you'll notice I've typed out the procedure for you. And you have to fill in some blanks, but I kind of give you the step-by-step procedure. On the exams, it's blank. You write the procedure step by step. They're usually almost identical to what we did in lab, but it's your job to know how to formulate it and how to come up and re-come up with that procedure. So let's keep going here. Now, I've done these steps a little bit slowly, step by step, so this may annoy some of you, but I'm trying to kind of guide you through all of this. So number one says the required amount of drug A for the prescription. Let's look at the prescription. How much do we need? 20 grams. So put 20 grams in there. Then it says the required amount of drug B. Just drug B, what do we need? How much drug B do we need? 0.3 grams. Well, that's kind of restating what's on the prescription there, but now number 3 says, well, how many tablets of drug B are we going to need to provide the 0.3 grams? Okay, now I know it's probably just intuitive jump, but the way that you could calculate this, if it's not so intuitive, is to take the amount of drug that you need, in this case 0.3 grams, right? Divide that by, in the same units, how much drug B is in each tablet. 900 milligrams, which is the same as what? 0.9 grams. So just be careful with your units here. Since I'm in grams, I'm going to stay in grams. 0.9 grams per tablet. So do you see, if I do that division, 0.3 divided by 0.9 grams, you cancel and you'll get the number of tablets you need. So what did you get mathematically? 0.333 tabs. Yes, I have terrible handwriting. I apologize. So would you agree, if we need 0.3 grams and there's 0.9 in each tablet, we need a third of a tablet? Can you actually measure a third of a tablet? Can you obtain a third of a tablet? No. So round up. When you do this, whatever decimal you get, you need to round up to the next higher level. So would you agree we're going to need 1 tablet? I'm not trying to make it rocket science here in a minute, but you're going to go to the supply table when you do this. You're going to go grab 1 tablet because that 1 tablet has enough drug to make your product. Okay? Easy enough? So that's that. So next, step 4 talks about how we need to calculate the amount of drug B powder from the tablet. So how much of the tablet powder do we need? The first thing that we're going to need for number 4 is the weight. So Judy is going to come up here and actually obtain the weight for us. Now, if you want, you can write this down on the margins, but you are going to do this yourself, and your weight will be different. Okay, your tablets and my tablets are not exactly the same. So we'll do this for an example here, but when you go out there, you're going to have to replace this exact number. Everything else is the same, but this number will be different.
Okay, so before you measure, don't forget a tare, of course, and we know how much drug are in there? 900 milligrams, right? But the actual weight is going to be a lot more than that.
I'm going to write down 4.168. 4.168 grams. Everyone make note of that? Okay, so that's interesting. So would you agree there's a lot more stuff in there than just drug B? Okay, but now what are we going to do? Essentially, Judy was going to, here in a little bit, crush that tablet up into what we call crushed tablet powder. We're going to turn it into a fine powder. We are going to weigh back out of that the tablet, the only amount of that powder that gives us exactly our 0.3 grams. So to set this up, we're just going to set up a ratio, and you can certainly have done this in lots of different ways. And it says how much active drug is in the required number of tablets. That's the 0.9 grams, just to be complete there. Now we can set up our proportion. And it basically says, in 1 tablet, we have 0.9 grams of drug B in, what was the total weight? 4.168 grams. Everyone okay with that? That's just the proportion that of the active drug B, not 0.9 grams, over the total weight of that tablet, which we said was 4.168 grams. Now let's proportion that, because all we really want is 0.3 grams over X. So solve for X, and I have to do the same math since our tablets are always slightly different weights here. And I messed up yesterday, so you guys need to do this and double check me on this stuff here, so make sure I don't do a math error either. So let's see what you get. Did you get rounding to 1.39? That work? Is that what you guys got? Yes, no, so y'all make me nervous here because I did mess up. No, you guys were that asleep yet. All right, I'm pretty sure. 1.39. Everyone get that? Okay, let's drive on. Easy breezy on that. So that's the amount of powder we're going to need to measure back to give us exactly that. So let me just ask you, get in ahead, because Judy's we're going to go through the whole procedure here in a minute. And what is the final weight of our product going to be then? If we mix our drug A and our drug B, how much drug A are we going to add? 20 grams. How much drug B? 1.39. Does that make sense? We're no longer talking about the 0.3 grams of drug B. That's how much we want to provide. But to provide the 0.3 grams, we are going to be adding 1.39 grams of this crushed tablet powder. I just want to make sure you understand we've now substituted the 0.3 grams of pure drug with the 1.39 grams of crushed tablet powder to be added to that. So that's what we're going to do with our formulation. Now, before we do that, we need to finish our documentation. So scroll down, make sure you get to the compounding record. This is kind of important as far as practice for every week that you're going to do this. We need to record this information. So for every drug, for real, you're going to typically go out there and write down the drug's manufacturer and lot number and expiration date. Now today we didn't go and fake all of that information, so you can kind of skip that for today. But from here on out, all of our chemicals will have manufacturers, lot numbers, and expiration dates. USP 795 for the compounding record requires the traceability of all of your ingredients. So that is absolutely something you always have to document. Okay? Now let's get back to drug A. Do we know our target amount? What is our target amount for drug A? 20. All right? Guess what? I just lost a point. It needs units. Everything needs units. You never put a number down without some sort of unit after that. So it's going to be 20 grams. All right? What is our actual amount? I don't know. Judy hasn't weighed it yet. Does that make sense? Make sure you understand. Your target amounts are your calculated amounts, but you can't just document for the lawyers, if this goes to that, what you were going to put in there. You have to be able to document what you did put in there. So if I want to put 20 in there, that's great. But before you take it off the scale, you actually, for every weighing that you make, document in your record the actual weight on the scale of the item that you put into there. Okay? So Judy will be weighing that here in a little bit. All right? Now let's go down to drug B tablets. Do we really have a target amount for the tablets, or is it really more of a target amount for the powder? You see where we got two things. It's a tablet that we crush up and get the powder from, but we're going to have to record both of those. So just for us, the way that we do this is we just say the actual amount for the tablet is going to be 1. You are actually going to be crushing up 1 tablet. Okay? Now for the powder, I do not need to rewrite the manufacturer and lot number. That's the same as the tablet. But now I do have a target for this crushed tablet powder. It was what? 1.39 grams. And I will have an actual. So Judy here in a little bit is going to do those weighings, and that's where you need to write down those weighings. So Judy's going to do it, but I want you to document the actuals for both of those in your handout. Okay? So with that, now scroll down to the procedure. Give me 1 second, Judy. I'm going to try to see if I can do this a little differently. And we're going to watch Judy doing the procedure. Okay?
Okay, all right. So before we start, let me introduce a few good friends for you guys first. All right? You'll be using Model and Pastel. Those are best friends for the semester, because every lab you'll be using them. Okay? All right. So the proper way of using it is put this, okay, put this in the palm and hold it like this, and then you can press and grind at the same time. Okay, therefore this is not just grinding, it's called a trituration. That's your first term for today, trituration. The proper way of holding it, because it's pressing down and grinding together, that's called trituration. All right, so now we know what to do. Second, let's say I'm going to use my powder now. Where should I set my pastel? On the bench, right? But it will roll. I have a little diaper on the bottom here, but you don't. So it will roll really quick, and then it will fall, and then we'll hear music. All right. When we hear music, which means it's broken, right? Okay. So how do you do that? Use a small weight boat and then set like that on your bench. Easy enough, right? Okay.
Let me just follow before you go on that.
Yes.
So if you break, or should I say when, anyway, hopefully if, any equipment gets broken or anything like that, and especially any glassware, don't pick it up, don't try to clean it up, let Judy or I know immediately. I will come by and I will clean it up. I know where the equipment is, I know where to discard the glass, and I will also replace what's broken. So don't try to clean it up yourself, but I may not hear it or see it right away. So if something happens or with any of your equipment doesn't work, or if you're missing equipment, let me or Judy know and we will take care of it for you, all right? Having said that, that is an active lab. If you were to injure yourself or cut yourself even on a metal spatula or something happens, let us know. It's a big lab. I'm not looking everywhere at once, even if I'm trying. So let us know. If we got Band-Aids, we can take care of you if we need to. So again, we'll be glad to do that, but you got to let us know. Sometimes we won't just observe it. All
right, okay. So I kind of joke with my students every single year. When I was a student learning compounding, for everything we broke, by the end of the semester, there's a list, and then we have the payback for everything we broke. And when I was a student, I made quite a few records. One of them was I paid the most. Okay, so don't do that. All right, so that's how you use your Model Pastel. Another good friend you'll be using is your rubber spatula. It's very handy. You're gonna love it. All right, and this is called a scoopular. All right, I don't know how the name comes from, but it's called a scoopular. It's a scoop and a spatula.
Scoop and spatula.
Right. So it's very handy as well. It's very good for you to do measurements. Okay, so those are things we will be working together. Step number 1.
Okay, so again, I'll read this on your procedure. Now, the other thing on learning weeks, I do get, while we're doing this one, I'm interrupting. The procedures are step by step, and they're given there, but are there some blanks? Are there some things for you to need to be filled in? So certainly like the number of times that you're going to have to do the geometric dilution. So every week there may be some blanks of things that you're going to need to add or specifically do for yourself in the procedure. Also, are there, especially near the bottom, a couple of lines where there are stars by them? When there are 2 stars, then understand this. That is me speaking directly to you. That's not something that would be written in the procedure. It's me talking to you and reminding you to do certain things. Because what I don't want to see on the exam is you regurgitating those same stars. That's me just talking to you for now. So those are just some informational things. So with that, it says, place 1 drug B 900 milligram tablet in a clean mortar and pestle and triturate to a fine powder.
All right, so now we are actually ready to triturate. Remember I said put this in the palm, hold it like this. So therefore, you can press down, break the tablet into powder. All right. So the way you need to do the trituration is your model should always set on the bench, and you hold your non-dominant hand, and then use your dominant hand to do the trituration. Okay. In the past, what has happened was some students like to hold it like this and do trituration, and for a guy, they're very strong. What happened was. It's broken. The motor's
Slipped
broken.
out of his hand, bounced twice, and broke. And of course, he reached for it to try to grab it, and that's when he cut himself, and then all that stuff.
Okay, so don't do that. Just do everything on your bench. All right, so let's finish here. Is that good enough? Okay, not quite. Okay, are you happy with that? No.
Can you stop too soon? Absolutely. Can you take too long? Not really as far as the powder goes. So make sure and err on the side of making it into a fine powder.
Okay. Are you happy with that now? Getting quite there, right? Okay. Don't be too picky on me, okay? This is the magic of TV. All right. It's all done now. Okay, what's the next step?
Next step says to weigh the required amount of drug B tablet powder in a small weigh boat and set aside. You want to describe what's written on your weigh boat?
Yes. All right, so a couple things. One, see the number is not 0. Make sure you tear first, okay? Did you guys see that I have labeled a little bit on my weigh boat here? It says BF. That's not boyfriend, by the way. Okay, that's B final. And you decide however you want to label. But for next week, even for today, okay, make sure that all your weigh boats should be labeled well enough. You know what's in there. Okay, as Larry said, next week you will be working with like 5 different powders.
Powders that look almost exactly the same.
Right. So label really well. Otherwise, you will forget which one is what. Okay. All right. So now let's do this. I'm going to use my rubber spatula. What is my weight? What is my target weight?
What was it?
What was it?
1.39 grams. And remember, this weight, when we're all done, is what you need to document on your compounding record. So go back under your actual for drug B crushed tablet powder. This would be.
Ooh. Oh, a little too much.
So let me ask you this. Does it have to say 1.39? Do you have to weigh that exactly? What is the standard we're going to hold you to for each of your weighings and oftentimes your final product? 5%. So you can have a 5% weighing error. Normally that's a cumulative, but we'll let you do 5% weighing if as long as there's not a ton of steps in there. So again, it's not necessary to spend 20 minutes to try to get it exactly to your calculated number. But it's also why it's extremely important to document your actual, because your actual probably isn't going to be exactly the same as your target, but it should be within what? 5%. That's kind of the standard quality standard. All right. Okay. So now it says to discard excess powder B appropriately. Okay. And so,
yeah. So in the lab, there's a blue bin. Okay, not the recycle bin. Some students try to dump the powder in the recycle bin. There's a blue bin on the middle bench where the dispensing bench where you get all your powders.
Look for the microwaves. They're to the left or the right of the microwaves in the middle of the lab.
Okay, so make sure that you toss your powder in there. All right, what should I do with my model? I still need to use it. Should I wash it for right now? No, don't wash it because it takes forever to dry. Okay, so what should I do? I'm going to wipe off just using either a paper towel or using a tissue. That's it, okay? And then same for here. I'm going to wipe off, make sure it's clean. All right, that's the next step.
So now it says to weigh the required amount of drug A in a medium weigh boat.
Okay, great. So I have I have already made a weighboat. It says AF. Now, by the way, me single person using a whole can of drug A, but you guys, a whole station will be using only one single bottle, okay? So therefore, from now on, remember that instead of bring the bottle and keep on your bench and everybody else is looking for the bottle, what you should do is you should use a weighboat and says AI, A initial, okay? Or whatever you want to label it, you know it's initial. And then bring this to the dispensing area and then estimate about the amount you need and then come back to your own bench and do the measurement. Is that clear enough? Okay, all right. But for
When
me,
you go there, you do need to bring your own scopulas and things. There aren't any devices to transfer the powder. And here's the deal. Before you go on here, normally USP 795 says if you take out of the stock container bottle to do a weighing and you have excess, what do you have to do with that excess? Discard it, not reuse that. However, some of you as junior pharmacists really have a hard time visualing 1 gram from 1 kilogram, okay? And so it's like, oh, look at all this extra powder, and I would waste a ton of powder stuff, and I'm trying to minimize that. So for lab, and especially when we only have small number of ingredients, we only have 1 white powder out there. So if you do take a bunch of excess, I would, all semester long, appreciate you do returning it to the stock container, which isn't approved, but it's something we really need to do to make the labs work, because you guys often will, not intentionally, take way more than you need.
Okay, so especially for your initial, the weighboat says initial product, okay? Make sure that if you have access that's clean, you can put back. What is my target weight again? 20. So you can do roughly quicker initially and then kind of slow down later.
Use your estimates of learning experience today. I mean, by all means, the procedure says to use a medium weighboat for 20 grams. It fits in there, but it's kind of a big pile. Would you agree? And so yesterday was an indication some of you might benefit with a large weighboat. So again, I usually use about a 10-gram cutoff for myself because I'm kind of a slob. 10 grams will more safe or higher safely end up in a large weighboat. Why wouldn't we just always use a large weighboat though? They move around more, especially for lighter weights, then their bigger surface area makes a hard time getting a nice stable weight to it. Plus there's going to be more powder loss in the weighboat, so it's not always use a large weighboat, but certainly you can see here it fits, but you know, a large weighboat wouldn't hurt either for, certainly my cutoff is about 10 grams or more for the large weighboat. Okay, so now let's
record this number down.
Yeah, oh, thank you very much. So everyone make sure you have written down her actual weight is 20.015. So that would go in the actual for the drug A. Thank you, Judy.
Okay, sure. Now we're going to mix.
So now, before, we can look at the procedure here, but all we got to do is mix those two things. So let's just dump them in the mortar and mix. First of all, we don't mix, we what? We triturate. And the problem with this is do we have equal amounts of powder, A and B? Is there a lot more A than B? And we chose the color on purpose to help kind of visualize this. But trust me, if you try to mix a large amount with a small amount, it's almost impossible to get a uniform mixture. Therefore, in all of your procedures, and what you in fact you need to do is use this terminology. What is the terminology for what Judy is now going to do? She is going to not mix, she's going to geometrically combine or geometrically mix these two. So go from there.
For geometric dilution, okay, that's your second term you're learning today. You are going to put a small amount into the model first. All right, and for the larger amount, you're going to estimate roughly 1-to-1 ratio, okay? So I'm going to estimate, okay, I will say that's roughly about 1-to-1. So now we're going to do the trituration again, trituration, not grinding or mixing, okay? Okay, is that well mixed? Not quite. Okay. So I can do rough. Quite quick right now because I don't have a lot of powder yet. Okay, and at some point you realize I have powders on the side. Here is your rubber spatula, should play a very good role. And you can also clean your model, the pestle as well.
So, most of the exams this semester, I always choose a drug or something that has some color to it, because part of it is what's easiest for me to do. If I'm not a human mass spectrophotometer, I can look for uniformity in color. So certainly you want to make sure that you mix it well enough that there aren't any white chunks or white streaks, that it's all uniformly mixed before you make your next addition.
Okay, so again, 1-to-1 ratio. We're adding more powder now. The 1-to-1 is based upon how much powder you have inside the model. Okay, Shake off. Okay. Your handy rubber spatula should come in. All right, so I finished my second edition. What do you think? Is that about 1-to-1 right now? Not quite yet. I probably should do one more edition, 2 more editions actually, but for the sake of time.
TV time, boom.
Okay, boom. I'm gonna add everything in there. Okay.
Now, part of what you do need to document when you do it for yourself out there is how many editions it does. And part of what we're trying to show you, even when you do it carefully, by doubling every single time you make an addition, it rarely takes more than 4 or 5 additions for any volume that you really have to add. So again, it doesn't take a long time. It's just doing it in steps so that you make sure that before each edition, you've got a nice uniform mixture. And it is something we'll be able to more easily tell. So it's, again, we'll do a lot of visual inspection.
As you guys can see, that I'm definitely slowing down. The more powder I have, if I do really quick, then the powder will fly out. Okay. All right, so what's the next step?
Okay, so the next step is to basically transfer all of the product to be dispensed into a final weighing, or a final container, which for us will be a medium weigh boat.
Okay, there we can
Yes,
show this one. Okay. All right, again, one more time. Make sure you tare, otherwise your weight won't be correct. And you should be using your rubber spatula for the transfer as well.
So as she does this, and she'll do it carefully here, it brings up the fact that where do we document this? Is this in our formulation record? Because these aren't any of the individual ingredients. This is the what? This is the weight of the final product being dispensed to the patient. So everyone look at your QA section. To the right of the formulation record, on the top it says the QA weight or volume, and then an actual physical description. So you don't have to write this number down now, but today, when you go out there and do it, you are going to do the same exact thing. You're going to, because what you're going to bring to us to get out of lab, you have to bring us your weigh boat for the product, and we're going to check your QA and make sure that it's been documented. This is where you would write the QA weight, all right? So in this case, we would write the 20.924 as the final quality assurance weight. So, wait a minute, is that okay? Is that acceptable? What did we say the final weight should be?
Within 5%.
Well, hold it, right? We said the actual target final weight would have been what? 21.39. Would you agree with that? So part of what you can see on your procedure down there is to calculate what is the acceptable QA range for your final product. So what did you guys get for that? That's what I was doing here in a second here. I'll put my thing up here. What I got is if 21.39 is our target, if I multiply that by 0.95, that would be 20.32 on the low end, up to a high end of 22.46. So did we fall within an acceptable range for our QA, for our final product? Yes. That's okay. So we documented that, and we're good to go there. Any questions on that? You will be doing it. And the point is, I know it's kind of, for what we're doing today, process. It's how to manipulate your glassware, how to do what Judy just did here. You'll see, it looks pretty simple, right? Do you know what we come over and look as you're working? We look for the powder explosion, all right? Because as you're just mixing, there's a spray of powder. Also, when you go to weigh on the scale, what is the only thing that adds towards the weight? The powder in the weigh boat, not the powder on the side of the weigh boat on the metal pan, right? That's going to throw off your weight. The powder all over your scale. So it's a matter of dexterity and getting used to some of these, I won't say scientific manipulations of getting used to actually doing this product stuff. Okay, let's keep moving on. All right, so last one. This is much shorter than the one we just did. It's a modification of the main idea that we're trying to get across. So bear with me. Let's go ahead and interpret your second prescription here. It's pretty simple. For Rose Bontrager, who's like an infant, she needs drug C that doesn't come already available as a liquid. So let's formulate a suspension that has 2.5 milligrams per 5 mLs, and we're going to want to prepare a total suspension volume of 70 milliliters. All right. So, and we look over on the additional information, the only issue that we got to bring up is the fact that drug C is not from a tablet, but from a what? capsule. And again, all semester long, you might either get tablets or capsules for your active ingredient. So let's just play with that a little bit. So fill out the formulation record here just for completeness. In this sense, drug C is our ingredient. Our dose and the amount for suspension is 2.5 milligrams per 5 mLs. It's a anti-whatever. It's the active drug. The Aura blend is a combination suspending and flavoring vehicle. That's what we're going to use to basically float the powder, the insoluble drug, and make it uniform so we can deliver the right concentration. So that's our vehicle. All right. So not a whole lot to this one. Let's set up these calculations. Again, they're not overly difficult, but let's just get them done. So it says, required amount of drug C for the prescription. Well, you can do this a lot of different ways. But essentially, if we want 2.5 milligrams per 5 mLs, how much do we need for 70? So you can just kind of cross-multiply through that. We can set that up differently if you wanted to. But essentially, to compound this 70 milliliters of this prescription, how much drug am I going to need? 35 milligrams? That one okay? Now, again, you can make some mental leaps here pretty quick, but bear with me on this. The next step, just like we did before, well, okay, if I need 35 milligrams of drug, if it was bulk powder, what would I do? I would just weigh 35 milligrams. But I don't have bulk powder. I have what strength capsules? 10 milligram capsules. So how many 10 milligram capsules am I going to have to go get to prepare this? So doing it the long way would just be able to say, okay, well, if I need 35 milligrams and I have 10 milligrams per capsule, how many capsules would that be? 3.5, which means I need to round that up to 4. So I need 4 capsules. These 4 capsules will provide me how much drug C? 40. Do I want 40? I don't want 40, so I'm going to use 4 capsules, but I don't want to use all of the 4 capsules. I just need the proportion that's going to give me my 35 milligrams. So in step 3 now, we need to obtain the weight of those 4 capsules so I can set up my proportion.
All right, again, don't forget to tare first. And we need 4 capsules.
All right, so everyone write down that the weight of the 4 capsules is 0.956. 0.956. And another important thing that you're going to learn is to never trust me. If you haven't known that already, because that's not right. Why is that the wrong weight? That is the weight of the drug powder and the capsule shell. What we need to know is the weight of the contents of 4 capsules, not the weight including the capsule shells. So Judy's going to come back up here because what is she actually going to need to obtain the weight of? The contents of those capsule shells. So erase that number. That was a wrong number. She's going to open those capsules, obtain the powder from 4 capsules. You can do it here or there.
Oh, yeah, I was going to.
Oh, I'm sorry.
See, so I tear my weigh boat already, so I can use my weigh boat. Now I'm going to open up those. All right, so they are kind of locked already. So you need to do is to, well, first of all, your glove should be snuggy tight on your fingers, okay? And so you grab 2 ends and twist a little bit. Open up.
She's rolling them around in her fingers a little bit, and sometimes the powder gets stuck in the tips. So
I'll double check, make sure it's
turn
clean.
them up and look inside there. And if there are little white powder chunks, make sure you knock them and get them to come out.
Okay, that's right.
This looks easy, but if you've got little sausage fingers like me, this is not quite as easy as far as the dexterity stuff goes. We'll see. Some students were still struggling with this yesterday. It's a matter of how to kind of grip them and turn them a little bit until they break that seal, and then they will open up. And do that in a way that you don't dump the powder anywhere other than in your weigh boat. A little bit of practice.
It comes with experience, because you need to make sure that you use good amount of force, that you can open it, yet don't break the shell. Because if the shell cracks, it will fall into your powder.
And then you do have to start all over again. You can't pick out the little pieces of gelatin from that.
And I remember this capsule is so easy to open now. I remember one time we had
Diphenhydramine is so cheap. I love it. But it has got that little seal around the middle, and people were like dying over here, and it was crushing. It was a huge disaster. So again, different capsules are definitely different in terms of how strong they are together. The other thing I want to bring up here, because Judy talked about her gloves, so realize when you go out there, you always have to wear your lab coat. Did you all bring your lab coats? Okay, so I may not take up points this week, but starting from here on out, you must wear your white lab coat every single week because it is part of your personal protection. These are real drugs and real chemicals. We want to reduce your exposure to that, so wear your white lab coats. And what will you always be wearing? Blue gloves, or the gloves out there. So you always need to make sure that you have gloves on that. So in that sense, and again, you don't need to write this down. You'll have, or do it to the side. You're going to come up with your own number there. But in this case, I will write down that the weight was 801. So, and I'll stay in milligrams. So 801 milligrams is what I got for the weight. Okay. So now we are just set up a very similar proportion. How much active drug is required? We said is, oh no, that was the wrong thing. It says here how much active drug is in those 4 capsules. So if there were 10 milligrams per capsule, how much total? 40 milligrams. This is important for the ratio. So the proportion I'm going to set up is 40 milligrams of drug C over 801 milligrams of the powder. So if I put C there, I'll put P for powder. Set that equal to 35 milligrams of C over X. Okay, so let's see what you get. Let's see what I get here. My God, well, that could be number 700. Let's do that here. I'll do this for an example. 700.875 milligrams. Is that what you guys got? Now, is that what I'm going to put down in my compounding record? What can you actually weigh? Do you know what your scales actually say? They have 0.000. There are 3 numbers to the right of the decimal point, and it's got a little G on it. So the smallest detectable weight on your scales is what? What is 0.000 grams? A milligram. So the least it can weigh is a milligram. So certainly from a practical standpoint, round everything to a, oh Lord, a milligram. I'm just trying to get here. 701 milligrams is what you would have for that. Now yours is not going to be 701 milligrams because your weights are going to be slightly different. Okay. Now last thing I promise to be done here. The whole point of this, and there's I won't go through the documentation stuff. For this one, I do want you to go out there and you need 4 capsules. Go get 4 capsules. Obtain the weight of the 4 capsules. The whole point of this take-home message was what? You don't weigh the capsules. You weigh the contents of 4 capsules. You set up that proportion. You then weigh back out the amount that gives you exactly 35 milligrams. All right? Here, listen to me on this. The whole point at that is I want you to take that weigh boat and that powder, walk across to a neighbor, either the one across from you or the one to the side of you, and test that weight on somebody else's scale. Because what happens all semester is you compound at your scale, but guess where I grade it? At the instructor area on my scale. And whenever it doesn't weigh the same, do you know what you say? You say, it's your scale. It was fine over on my scale. All right? So we have this big argument back and forth. So what I want you to prove is if it says, for example, 705 milligrams on your scale, what will it say on somebody else's? So I want you to go over to somebody else's, and it won't be exact. Put a new weigh boat on there and hit tare, and then dump all of that powder as carefully as you can into that, and let's see how close you can get to yours. All right? And then I want you to calculate a percent error. I just want you to know, when I grade, I calculate your percent error, because your final product should be within what percent did we say? 5%. So are these 2 weighings that aren't going to probably be exact, are they within 5%? All right? So calculate that percent error, and that's what I'll do. So for today, to get out of the lab, what you're going to do then is you'll have everything cleaned up. You'll come over to the instructor area where Judy and I will be. You will bring your weigh boat of your A and B powder that we just did together. You will have made that and have that there. And your iPad. That's all you need. This drug B stuff, all the excess powder can be put into the blue trash cans by the microwaves. Remember, only the powder. And we're only trying to help alleviate exposure to the housekeeping. All of the weigh boats and the paper towels and your gloves and everything else, please throw all of that in the regular trash, but the bulk excess powder we want to just dump in there because I put kitty litter in there and we'll dispose of that differently. Okay? So powder there, everything else gets cleaned up. When you come to us, we will look at your final product for A. We will look through this handout, make sure you've documented everything. We'll look at what your percent error was here for C and so forth, and go through all of that stuff with you. All right? So,
For compounding record, Larry emphasized about units already. But two more things. You cannot have trading zero. So if you get a number on the balance says 0.800, should you write 0.800? Only 0.8. Okay, trading zero can easily become a mistake. Usually it's a tenfold mistake. Another thing is leading zero is required. So if a 0.8, instead of say 0.8, you say 0.8. And those are the rules for compounding record. Okay?
and it seems maniacal, but we're trying to train you. We're trying to get you into the habit. And if the only way to train you that is to threaten you with taking points away, that's kind of the idea behind it. We are just trying to make sure that you have. And again, I will still say, this compounding record, is it for you, is it for somebody else to look at later? It's for somebody else. It has to be legible. So do make sure that it's legible and you do fill out the forms. And I know it seems kind of pointless, but a big part of compounding now is your documentation stuff. So I left the sign-in sheet out here. So be sure, and as you leave here, take all your stuff with you, text the sign-in sheet, make sure you can find your pod and station number. I'll help you. Get your stuff stowed away. Put on your white lab coats. You'll get some blue, or get your gloves on and go through this process. Any questions? It's just a learning thing. It's not a big deal. Ask Judy and I. We're here to help you.